All right, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining tonight. Got a fun show tonight. USMNT roster was announced today, so a lot of interesting decisions by Greg Berhalter earlier today. So want to talk through some of them and hear your guys' feedback as well. I know it's always a hot topic when we have a roster get announced. So I'll give it a few minutes for people to come in and we can get started. All right, I see we got someone joining now. So thanks for joining. Just gonna get set up here and then get right into it. We've got good opportunity in front of us. I think these two games are going to be two of our most important games. Obviously, our first game against Mexico, based on what we did this summer, where they sit in the standings right now, on top. This is going to be definitely our hardest game and one we really need to get points from at the very least. I think we got to obviously do all we can to win this game and kind of, again, keep ourselves supplanted as, the best team in CONCACAF. But it's going to be no easy challenge, right? We know this. So, and it's home too. So, we got to take care of our home games. We got to win those and, see where the chips fall. So, now we're going to kind of get into our roster for today. So, starting with goalkeepers, we're going to go with Sean Johnson. We have Zach Steffen in camp, and then also Matt Turner. So, really the same host of goalkeepers we've seen. Zach Steffen now is finally back, healthy. He's gotten some good game time with Man City here recently. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of the number one coming into camp here. Obviously, the Revolution have had a great season and Matt Turner's really been a rock for them. And, we saw him this fall, besides, I think, the last game where Zach Steffen played. So we know what Matt Turner does. But I personally like Zach Steffen a little bit more. I think he's a little bit more agile. I think they're both really good shot stoppers. And I think, we both know that, they're not the best with their feet. But they're good at stopping the ball, and that's really what you're called to do as a goalkeeper. So I really like Zach Steffen for these two matches, and was just announced today actually that he signed a contract extension with Man City until 2025. So a lot of people are kind of split on that decision, right? We want to see him getting as much game time as possible, but staying at Man City gives them the opportunity to win more silverware, whether that's in the Premier League, whether that's in Champions League, maybe some other competitions that they compete in. It's really, good experience for him and good game time, or just good learning experience. And he is able to get some game time here and there. But overall, I think yes, that's a good spot for him right now. And I think it's a good contract that he signed because he can always go out on loan, right? He can go back to the Bundesliga. He could go to a, like a lower Premier League team, things like that. So I don't think it's, the end of the world that he signed that contract extension. We've got a question here from Kyle. So what's more important, where you play or how you play? If form matters, Brooks played himself off the team and maybe for the long term. So let me throw that up here too. So it's a great question, Kyle. I think, I think both matter, right? And it's really weird with John Brooks, because Wolfsburg, haven't been playing up to the level that they played at last year. And I think that could be, also said for John Brooks with his club team. But we also saw him with the USMNT this year too. He hasn't looked as good as in years past, and I don't think that's necessarily based on him declining in, his ability and things like that. But I don't know. It just seems like it wasn't really working for him this year in the games that we saw this fall of him. So for that reason, I think, Miles Robinson has been very consistent. Chris Richards showed really well last game. We've had some other good performances from center backs this fall. So I don't think it's, I don't think it's bad that he's not a lock starter for this team. I do think he should be on this roster. I was kind of shocked to see him at least not on this roster. because, you know, he did play a good game the other day against Salzburg in the Champions League. And, you know, he is playing at that level, right? Like he is a Champions League center back. So it's kind of weird to me to see him not on the roster. And I think it's fair, again, if he's not starting, but to not have him on this roster is kind of head scratching to me. We've got another question here too from Sam. So he says, most everyone thinks, why no Luka and why is there Lletget? But understand Brooks, his form isn't good of late and hard to sit someone of his caliber. Yeah. So to start off with that first question, why no Luca de la Torre? So if you didn't see our most recent video, we just put out a video, I think a day ago. So go check that out. We do weekly reports here on the channel. So make sure to check them out when we put them out. And we kind of compared his situation to Christian Kappus's situation at Brøndby. Brøndby's a top flight Danish team there. They're in the Europa League. Christian Kappus has been playing more recently and has been playing more consistent minutes. Obviously, Luca de la Torre is definitely like a lock starter for his team, where Kappus is not necessarily that. But we tried to say it's similar levels, right? Like Luca de la Torre is playing on a mid-level team in the Eredivisie, and yes, he has some really good qualities. I thought he looked good in his game time, last window, and Sebastian Lletget has not looked so good. So I do think there is an argument to be made there. However, I don't know. I personally think that Luca de la Torre is not like a lock player for this team. So I could see why Greg Berhalter, called up Lletget, one of his guys, right? One of his people he's had basically on this roster since day one as a, national team coach. So I see that, but I don't know. I'm not like super torn about it, Sam. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. I think both players, you can make a case for both players. But I do think Sebastian Lletget might offer a little bit more going forward than Luca de la Torre. And maybe that's why Greg Berhalter felt that he was, someone to bring on this roster. I think you can also look at like, why is Christian Roldan on this roster over Luca de la Torre? Like, I think leaving Christian Roldan off for him would have been a smarter move, in my opinion. But yeah, that's just kind of my 2 cents on it. I don't feel too strongly about either because, we're going to get into this a little bit more later. I think we really got to see the MMA midfield, right? Musa McKinney and Tyler Adams. I think those three really need to be, starting against Mexico. They looked by far, the most talented of the group this past window. And yeah, I hope that, Sebastian Lletget doesn't see the field very much. And potentially that would have been the same if Luca de la Torre was on this roster. So that's kind of, I guess, my take on that. So I guess we're going to kind of jump back into, going position by position just to start here. So we talked about the goalkeepers a little bit. Now let's move on to the defenders. So we have a very interesting list here. And I think it's good to, state first and foremost that Serginho Dest is out injured this camp. So, we weren't going to see him regardless of, whatever we thought was going on here with him being left off. He's injured right now. So that wasn't too much of a shock. But to kind of go into it a little bit more, we have Reggie Cannon at right back. We've got Mark McKenzie at center back. We've got Chris Richards, Anthony Robinson, Miles Robinson, Joe Scally, who we've been excited to see, in a USMNT shirt ever since, he started the year off really hot, looked really good in the Bundesliga all year, and honestly could be Gladbach's player of the year so far. They're not having the best year, obviously, but Joe Scally's really been a revelation for them. Then we've got Sam Vines, which was interesting to see him back as well, DeAndre Yedlin, and Walker Zimmerman. So we kind of talked about it a little bit before, but no John Brooks on this roster. And I thought he handled it really well. There was a quote that came out basically after the roster was announced. And he said, in life and in soccer, nothing is ever handed to you, nor should it be. The decision to leave me out of this camp isn't surprising, given some of my recent performances for the USMNT that aren't up to my standards. My job is to work hard and to be the very best I can be. I feel great about this week's Champions League performance and my recent play with Wolfsburg, and will keep building on my performance there until I reach my goal of helping the USMNT reach the next World Cup. So, it was disappointing not to see him on the roster, but I was really, happy with the way he responded, especially the way, some of the players were, in the past when when Fabian Johnson was left out of a camp, he got a little upset. When Darlington Nagbe, wanted to he wasn't getting called up with Greg Berhalter, he kind of said, peace to the national team. This is, I felt like this could have been a situation like that where we might miss out on a really good player that could help us if we didn't handle it in the right situation, or if he didn't, take it in the right light. So I thought that was really, really positive. Again, I think he should be in this team. So it's kind of disappointing to not have him here. But going into the players that we have here, I guess, I thought it was cool to see Reggie Cannon back. There's obviously been some contract disputes there in Portugal with him, not really playing until recently, this season. So, hoping to see more of him in this camp. Hopefully he's, back up to full speed and, is fully fit and can really, play a part in this, this window. I think he's going to be relied upon based on his experience with this team, and also just, the experience he has at that right back position. Joe Scally being so young, DeAndre Yedlin, we kind of know what he brings. So maybe he'll, start some of these games, but I really look to Reggie Cannon to kind of, plan himself in the starting right back role for this camp. And then you've got Chris Richards again, which I was really happy to see. I thought he played really well last camp. Obviously playing pretty well for Hoffenheim. So yeah, I think he's just, continuing to get better, right? Continuing to get minutes, learn how that center back position is played. And I really like the partnership he provides with Miles Robinson. You've got one guy who's a really great one-on-one defender, really strong in the air, and, can do a lot of great things defensively. And then you also have Chris Richards, who, provides a lot of that as well, but also can get forward at times, is really smart with his passing, is someone that is, as well, really good in the air, on corners and even just defending, when other teams try and push high up the field. So I really like them as a partnership. So I was just really happy to see him in this camp. Joe Scally is awesome. I really like what he provides for Gladbach, and I'm really interested to see in this camp if he can get, more minutes and really, push these other guys at that right back position. Because when Serginho Dest is not here, it's kind of wide open, and he's gonna have that opportunity, I think, in the upcoming camps to kind of stake a claim for that right back position, or maybe even that left back position. And I'm just excited to kind of see how that goes. I'm going to pivot here real quick to some questions we got. So Sam says, Miazga and Brooks have a bigger argument over McKenzie. Happy with Brooks' response. Yeah, I personally was not on board with McKenzie being called up this camp. He hasn't been playing with Genk. So, we'll kind of see how that goes the rest of this year. But yeah, I mean, John Brooks is someone that, is definitely playing at a higher level than them, is definitely playing at a higher level than McKenzie, and, is also playing more often than McKenzie. So, it was kind of a head scratching move. Same with Miazga. Miazga's been kind of in and around that Alaves team. He hasn't been a true consistent starter for them. But when he's been on the field this year, he's been pretty good. So, definitely another, center back that we could make a case for. And, I think it would have been interesting to see, him as well in this camp over a Mark McKenzie, over a Walker Zimmerman, who, again, I think, I don't know. I think Walker Zimmerman is one of Greg's guys. So, hey, it is what it is, I guess. But, that's just kind of my 2 cents. And Huss here says, how high do you rate Scally? So I think we got to be careful, right? We don't want to, put his ceiling way above, Gio Reyna, or even, someone like Yunus Musa, who I think is right up there with Reyna in terms of, highest ceilings in our pool, besides some of the players that are already, peaking, so to speak, with Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams. But I think Joe Scally has, all the makings to be a top tier right back in, a top 5 league. I don't know if he'll ever reach that, Barcelona, Real Madrid, top 5 team in Premier League. But I do think it wouldn't be surprising to see him go to a team of like Borussia Dortmund's caliber, or, maybe a team, I mean, maybe a team like an Arsenal or a Tottenham or, what are some other good teams there? I'm trying to think of other teams in other leagues. Maybe, some of the top, like a top team in Italy or something like that. I don't think it'll be out of the realm to see him go, to some of those top teams in a top 5 league. I really just think he's got all the makings to be a quality right back, and just outside back in general. If he can play on both wings or both flanks, excuse me, then that'll obviously help him as well, and be a more rounded player. But really, he's got that size, right? He's a pretty tall player. He's pretty athletically fit as well. He's not the fastest player. He's not going to blow by people. But he is, we've seen it this year. He is capable of getting up the field, providing great crosses into the box to get people in situations to score. And he's also just very determined, right? It's all about that mindset. You saw that mindset with Christian Pulisic coming up. Same with Weston McKennie. Tyler Adams obviously has a great mindset. And you see that as well in Joe Scally. He feels like he deserves to be there. He plays like he deserves to be there. And, in the games against Bayern this year, he hasn't looked phased at all. And I think that's a big part of why he is very successful. So I don't know. I think it's going to be very curious to see how this plays out, on the U.S. team, right? Because Serginho Dest is kind of on the same trajectory. We see that mentality from him. We see he's got really special ability. And then on the left, Anthony Robinson's really starting to come into his own recently. But obviously he's a little bit older than Joe Scally. So maybe, that age plays a factor in, that decision down the line. If maybe Joe Scally is a better fit at left back over Anthony Robinson, maybe that'll kind of be how it plays out. So yeah, I rate him pretty highly, I guess, to kind of say, to sum up everything I just said, Huss. So yeah. Huss says also here, I feel as though Brooks is so prone to mistakes with the U.S. Yeah, I think when you watch John Brooks, not only with the U.S., but when you also watch him, in the Bundesliga, he is very much the gambler, right? He likes to gamble, step high up the field to win balls, and just win the ball off attackers, kind of breaking out, and that's just the way he plays. And sometimes he looks really good doing it and has a lot of success, and other times he gets burned. I feel like that's always kind of been his MO. So yeah, I think he's prone to make mistakes, but I think that's also kind of his play style. He likes to kind of push the envelope from time to time. And again, it makes him, really good in some games, and he'll be, the player of the game as a center back. And other times, he'll have a really lousy game where he kind of mistimes things and doesn't get it quite right. So yeah. And Huss also says here, would love Scally at Wolves. Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think Joe Scally is going to have a lot of options in the next year or two, and we'll kind of see how it plays out. So I think with that, we're going to move over to our midfielders now and just give a little bit of a rundown. So, Kellen Acosta leads us off here with Tyler Adams, Gianluca Busio, Sebastian Lletget, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, and another Greg favorite, Christian Roldan. So the big names that stand out to me in this group are really, Yunus Musa and Gianluca Busio. So Yunus, we got to finally see him, make his cap-tying debut last time in the, World Cup qualifying window. So, that was such a big goal from that window. And he played so well in the game time he got. And I'm really excited to see him in this camp. I think we've got to start with that MMA midfield against Mexico. I think we need to go Musa, McKennie, and Adams and really take our best players, our biggest difference makers, right? Musa's got that difference-making ability, and go at Mexico and really put our best playmakers on the field. So I'm really excited to see him in camp. Gianluca Busio has been playing, really well with Venezia, has really just done well ever since going to Italy. I feel like he's really made that transition very smoothly. And also, I think he's shown well in the game time, he's gotten for the USMNT, whether that was the Gold Cup this summer or, even last camp when he got some minutes on the field. I really just like, what he provides. I'm not sure if it's going to be the best decision to play him against Mexico based on, just how passionate they are, I think he can definitely come in and provide some minutes in the second half there. Maybe I should say not to start against Mexico, but I really think he could be a good option against Jamaica and kind of help us break down that team. He's just so composed with the ball, and I feel like that's the one level of his game or aspect of his game that he's gotten better at since moving to Italy. Is just being more calm, reading the game a little bit better, and just kind of letting it come to him, not being so quick to make decisions or rush decisions. Excuse me. He's really been able to just play more calm and really kind of evaluate his options before making the right pass. So that's something I'm going to be looking for, and that was a reason why I was excited to see Busio. And it's kind of interesting. We've got the classic Greg Berhalter backups, right? I feel like Kellen Acosta, Sebastian Lletget, and Christian Roldan are really kind of the 1As of all those midfield positions. So I don't know. I think sometimes they play well, and it's good, and they do a good job and get us a result, but they're not players that we can rely on. So again, I just hope that Greg doesn't rely too heavily on them. If we try to rotate, say, for the Jamaica game, definitely I hope we don't see any of those guys to start against Mexico. Again, I think we need to put our best talent on the field. And as much as I enjoy what Kellen Acosta brings from just a intangible standpoint, right? He's some guy who really fights for the team and is not afraid to kind of mix it up. I wouldn't mind seeing that in the second half, just not maybe the first half. So hopefully we understand. Hopefully Greg understands their role in this team a little bit better than last camp, and we can again get our best players on the field. I think that's the most important thing. And honestly, again, our one of our biggest windows that we have to perform well in, right? Mexico is a big team. Again, we want to assert our dominance in CONCACAF based on what we did this summer and where they're at in the table right now. So this is, again, by far one of our biggest games, if not our biggest game of the whole window. Huss here says Busio better than Pirlo. Not sure about that, Huss, but appreciate the optimism. I think, again, he's done really well since going to Italy. He's looked very comfortable in that team. And, we'll see what happens with Venezia. Are they going to stay up? Are they going to go down? Is he going to, be able to leave there at the end of the season if he continues this good play? We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I love that. Love that right there. And then Huss also said if Busio performs the way he's been doing, he'll easily be a starter for the U.S. He just needs to move to a bigger club. Yeah, I can't say that first part for certain, just based on the other players we have coming up. There's so many other good players. When you think about it, like Caden Clark in MLS, you got Paxton Aronson, who's been playing really well. There's so many other players that are going to be coming up as well. So I don't feel comfortable saying that. Even Yunus Musa, who, I think should be a starter right now, or Giorena, who could be a starter in the midfield. But I do agree with your sentiment. Yeah, I think he's going to be a player that's going to be in and around this team, always going to be kind of pushing for minutes. And hopefully he does move to a bigger club. Why not move to a Milan or a Fiorentina or Lazio or some other teams over there in Italy? I think it would be really cool to see more of our players go to bigger teams and hopefully vie for some European minutes. That's kind of the goal of players when they go abroad, right? Is to play in the biggest competitions, play in the best teams. And I think that there's no difference there in Gianluca Busio's mindset. Kyle here says, with Busio playing big minutes in Serie A, you don't need a similar player with Luca De La Torre, who may not offer as much going forward and breaking the lines. So very interesting here. And thank you again for the comment, Kyle. I kind of agree with the sentiment. I think Luca De La Torre is maybe not as I don't want to say as talented, but I think there's a little bit more difference-making ability maybe with Gianluca Busio over Luca De La Torre. I feel like Luca is really like I don't know if this is the right way to use this phrase, but like a cookie cutter player. He makes a lot of the the simple passes and is really good at keeping the ball, keeping possession. But I don't know how creative he is. And maybe that's just from me not watching as much of him as I should. But when I think of Gianluca Busio, I'm thinking of someone who's more of a playmaker maybe than Luca De La Torre. But yeah, I kind of agree with this. I think maybe with including him in addition to some of the other midfielders we have on this, this roster, then maybe that's the reason why Luca was left off. Maybe Greg kind of saw this as, we have Gianluca Busio as like a holding midfielder. We also have, I'm trying to think, Kellen Acosta plays a little further back as a 6. We have some other players who do similar things to what Luca would do. So therefore we won't, include him in this camp. But I don't know. I guess we'll kind of see what the future holds. Luca's not in this camp, so we'll kind of have to go without him this time, and we'll see what he does for club team, right? We're coming down to the winter period here. He's been playing pretty well for his team so far this year, and if he can continue to do that, then he'll keep pushing himself in this conversation for the next 2 windows in the spring, and ultimately, that World Cup team coming up next, next fall, next winter, which is the ultimate goal of his. So, yeah. So I think with that, we're going to move on to our forwards for today, our attackers. And quite an interesting group here. We've got Brendan Aronson, Paul Areola, Jesus Ferreira, Ricardo Pepe, Christian Pulisic, which we love seeing him back, and then also Tim Weah. So, I think to start, I think the lack of strikers or true strikers, should I say, was kind of apparent with this selection, for this camp. Obviously, Ricardo Pepe is the locked-on starter at this point. He's been playing so well with us, and really whenever he's on the pitch, he's a danger to score, right? He's always getting himself in good positions, always, again, looking to square up and be, have that poacher mentality and just, look to score goals in every game he plays. So I understand why why we have the faith in him, so to speak, and why he's the only true striker on this roster. I am a little concerned though, if, an injury comes up, something like that, I guess we can throw in Tim Weah. Jesus Ferreira can even play striker in a pinch, but I really would have loved to see someone like Daryl Dike on this team. Daryl Dike has got 3 goals in his last 3 games in MLS, really has, found his form again after coming back from Barnsley and having that little injury right there after the Gold Cup. He's really kind of come back and, played up to the level that he played before he left for Barnsley and even, when he was at Barnsley. So I would have loved to see us kind of, reward him for that good play, get him on this team and, get him in action again. He hasn't been involved with the USMNT since the Gold Cup. So we're going to go a full 8 games without him being playing part in a World Cup qualifier. I feel like that's kind of huge and has gone under the radar a little bit. So that was a little disappointing for me. Obviously, Josh Sargent misses out on this camp. So his 2nd camp in a row, he's not in, not with the USMNT. So that's kind of big, right? He was the lock starter for a good amount of time here. And obviously we had some players filter in and get starts from time to time over him. But if you had to ask the consensus, probably even before the World Cup qualifiers began, who was your, number 1 starter at striker, we all would have said Josh Sargent. So to not see him now for 2 consecutive camps, it kind of hurts, right? We want Josh to do well. We want him to be capable of being that starting striker for us. And, maybe that'll be the case in the future. But right now, I feel like he's just got to focus on his club career and really kind of, hone his craft there at Norwich. It's been a really tough year. Obviously, he just moved there this summer from a team that was already relegated and had to deal with that whole relegation battle last year. So it can't be, any more fun this year going through that again in a new surroundings, new environment. So it's tough for sure. But I'm not sure he's, deserving of a call up right now, which is fine, I think, overall. PFOC was also another player that, didn't make this roster. And his form has cooled off a little bit. Last camp or before last camp, he was really in, really good form. So I thought last camp it was a little bit more surprising he's not on this roster. This time, yeah, I think, if we're going to go with Ricardo Pepe and really feel confident in him for 2 games, then it might make some sense. But I just want to make a point there that, it would have been kind of cool to see him called up in this camp as well. Jesus Ferreira, kind of an interesting choice. He's been playing very well in MLS recently, really playing well with Ricardo Pepe specifically, and, has been playing in that like support striker role. So again, I'm curious to kind of see how we, deploy him if we do play him in any of these games. He can play kind of out on the wings a little bit, but that's not really his strong suit. He is someone who likes to play a little bit more central. So he's definitely got talent, and he's definitely a confident player. We saw that for the U23 team. We saw that in some of the game time he's gotten for the USMNT. But we haven't really seen him in a game that, has this much pressure, right? Like the game against Mexico is going to have. Like that's going to be such a high intensity game. And even that game against Jamaica, right? Jamaica's not in a great situation right now. They're going to be battling for as many points as possible. And that game, I believe, is away for us because it's going to be behind closed doors. So maybe that will help us. Or I think they're going to let in, a few thousand fans now, something like that. It's going to be a lot different than anything he's really experienced with the USMNT before. So, kind of curious to see see how that works and, what he has. I think right now we really got to find players that can help us ultimately achieve our goal of getting to the World Cup, right? Like, it would suck to not finish first, in this qualification window or qualification cycle. But at the end of the day, if we can qualify for the World Cup, go to Qatar and be a force there, that's what matters most. And I think, having a lot of players in and around this team before we select that final roster for Qatar could really do us well and really provide us with some more understanding, or at least a better understanding of the players we have and who should be called up for that final roster. So, just want to talk real quick. I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but we've got Christian Pulisic back in this camp. So excited to see him back. He just made his return from injury this week in the Champions League against Malmo. And I'm so excited to see him for this Mexico game. We really needed him on the pitch here to kind of, give us that confidence, right? Going into the game that we have our star player, our difference maker on the field, and that he's going to be, again, a guy we rely upon to score goals. I'm really excited to see him play with Ricardo Pepe. I think those two can really link up and be, basically become a good partnership, right? And kind of rely on each other to really help this team score in the final third. I really think, Christian Pulisic is going to be key in that, with Ricardo Pepe. So I'm really excited to see him in this camp. And overall, I think the attackers, it's a little bit of a small group, again, at striker most specifically, but overall, I think we've got the players we need to again, perform and get results this window. I really think, the players that were called up can do this job here against Mexico and again against Jamaica. It's now going to be on them to just kind of, come together, implement what Greg Berhalter wants from them, and go out on the field and do it, right? Look to create chances, look to be sound at the back, and not overcommit up the field against a team like Mexico who can really do damage on the break. It's really going to be up to that team to kind of dictate how these games go. So I'm excited for that. I just want to shift it over to some comments here. Sam says CCV over McKenzie too. So Cameron Carter-Vickers has been playing pretty well there at Celtic, and obviously Celtic's kind of fallen off from where they were the last few years. So, I think that's worth stating, but he's been playing, really lights out for them. They've been getting some good results recently. He actually, I think, took part in their Europa League game today, and they were able to get a win over Ferencváros, the team from Hungary. I think he would have been an interesting shout. We know kind of some of his limitations, right? He's not the best passer out of the back. At times a little bit too brutish, so to speak. He kind of, is not afraid to commit fouls and play very physical. But in CONCACAF, right, we kind of invite that physical nature. So it would have been an interesting call up over McKenzie as well. And Sam also says here, I hope to see slightly against Mexico, Scally, Zimmerman, Robinson, and Robinson. So I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. If you want to see those guys against Mexico, I'd have to disagree and say, I'd want to see, I guess I'd want to see Scally and Robinson. So I probably would just say maybe Chris Richards over Zimmerman. I don't know. Having experience against Mexico could be beneficial. I'm curious what everyone else thinks. Do you think Walker Zimmerman would be, a center back you'd like to see start against Mexico? Respond in the comments whether you would or not. I'm kind of curious to see. I would love to see Joe Scally start against Mexico. I think he, has the right mentality to approach this game, a game of this magnitude right from day one. So I know that's no, small task. And also just, what he can provide to this team. Again, getting forward, providing cover at the back, being another tall player on corners to kind of, go at Mexico and really, make it difficult on them, right? Miles Robinson, had that winning header for us in the Gold Cup. Weston McKennie did so much damage with his head in Nations League, and then providing another player, that can also kind of get on the end of crosses like Joe Scally, and also provide those crosses into the box. I think, he would be a great asset in this game. Kyle here says, including Jesus suggests GGG will play with him at the 9.5 behind Pepe. So that's that shadow striker position, in a libero 4-5-1 at some point, especially if Weah isn't good and Areola flops as his sub if we're down a goal. Yeah, I mean, we've seen, Greg switch up his tactics from time to time. I don't know. I'm not sure we'll see, a different shift for one sole player. I do agree with you, though. I think if he called him up, then he has a plan of how to play him. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see Greg, shift his tactics a little bit more for one of these games. I don't know. I'm excited to see Jesus Ferreira. Nonetheless, I think he's a very talented player, and I just want to see more of him with this team. I really liked the mentality he provided, again, in the friendlies that we saw him in. Also for the U23 team, I thought he was one of the only players that really played with a lot of heart and passion and really didn't back down, even when that last game went so poorly. I really thought, he came on and was trying to, just get off as many shots as he could, was really going at balls, really. I think there was a chance in the final few minutes where he really just kind of went all for a chance and got kind of laid out, and really it kind of paid, to go at an opportunity like that. So yeah, I'm excited to see him at least in camp at the very least, and hopefully in the game in some fashion. So yeah, I think, again, going into this camp, the Mexico game is going to be so crucial. I really think we need to, again, stick with the players that have the most talent. So if you look at that, again, it's putting maybe Chris Richards on the field over Walker Zimmerman because he's a little bit more talented and can provide us with maybe a final pass that Walker Zimmerman couldn't, or putting Yunus Musa in midfield over someone like Sebastian Lletget, who's, more veteran and has more of that poise that Greg is probably looking for in a game like this. I just think we need our best talent on the field in these games. And I think we've shown in over this World Cup qualifying cycle, right? We've relied on players who just have more talent to get us the results we need. That's Ricardo Pepe. That is Yunus Musa last camp, putting him on the field and just letting him do his thing to help us, get a result. I think we've seen, right, having faith in the players we have, and the young players most specifically we have, they'll help us get results, and we can have some faith in them. So, I'm excited to see, how we come out against Mexico. Maybe Greg will do 3 at the back against them. I personally would just like to keep it simple and kind of do what we know and play that that 4-2-3-1 not 4-2-3-1. Excuse me. What am I saying? 4-1-2-3 or 4-3-3, however you want to say it. Against Mexico, and kind of just treat them like any of the other opponents, and really again have that mentality when we come out. Right, me and Pat talked about it last camp. Having a mentality where you're going to come into the game and dominate the tempo. You're going to set the tone for the game right from the first minute. I think that's going to be most important. Over the tactics that we play. It's really how we approach the game personally. So yeah. And then looking at Jamaica, again, it's an away game. It's behind closed doors, but there's going to be some fans. So that'll help us hopefully get a little bit more of an edge in that environment. And I really think, again, Greg Berhalter hopefully learned his lesson last camp that we need to be smart in how we rotate players. Some of these players are coming off the end of their MLS season. So, I'm thinking of like Ricardo Pepe. He's not going to need to get any rest after this game. He's going to have a good amount of time off. So, I think we need to play our best players in that Jamaica game and not rotate players, especially if we lose against Mexico, which, none of us here would really, really enjoy that. So I just think we've got to stick to playing the best talent we have, because we're getting down to the end of this cycle, right? This is the halfway point, these two games. After Mexico, we'll truly be halfway through the cycle. And, right now I think we're in a decent spot. We're sitting in second in the table. So, it's not bad. I think we're fine. But again, if we lose to Mexico, then we're going to be a lot further behind them. And, that's not necessarily going to be the best thing going forward. And it's not going to feel good, right? We want to set the tone in this qualifying cycle and show that we're the kings of CONCACAF, right? We keep saying it, but we really got to go out and prove it. And getting a result against Mexico this window, again later in this qualifying cycle, could really do a lot for our motivation, a lot for just again cementing ourselves as that top team in CONCACAF. So that's kind of my take on this window so far. So yeah, if anyone else has any questions or anything they want to talk about, shoot us a comment right now. And would be happy to talk about some different topics that you guys have questions about or just want to talk through in general. And thanks again, everyone, for joining tonight. Appreciate it. And, Pat's not available tonight, so, I apologize about that, but he'll be back when we do our live streams before the games next week. And, we're so excited. Next week's going to be, again, just huge. That Mexico game is going to be so big. So, we're really looking forward to it. So cool. I don't really see any comments coming in. So, I did want to talk about before we go tonight. We've got the U20 Revelations Cup coming up in a few days here, and it looks like Malik Sunogo, our boy Malik, Sunogo, released the U20 roster. So just wanted to kind of go through that real quick. Don't want to spend too much time on it, but was really excited about some of the names I saw on this team. So Justin Che, Caden Clark, Cade Cowell. We've got Danny Leyva on this team, Diego Luna, who's a really exciting player from USL that's really had a good season. Also came from the Barca Residency Academy, and it's just been playing really, really well for that team there. And then also Jack McGlynn from the Philadelphia Union. We've got Rokas Pukstas from Hajduk Split, a team over in Croatia, who's a really interesting player that's kind of flown under the radar a little bit, but a creative midfielder. Someone who's also been training with their first team, I think as a 17-year-old, if I'm not mistaken. So, another player that's kind of flying under the radar that could be a good player for us in the future. We've got Malik Sunogo, like I said, he's a really exciting, I think quadnat, if I'm not mistaken, with Germany, the US, maybe Ivory Coast and one other. He's again also getting in training sessions, first team training sessions there at Union Berlin. Maybe we'll see a debut for him in the winter here. I think it's very possible, but he's a 2004, so I think he's still only 16 right now. So really, ahead of his time, and honestly could be a player that Germany tries to snipe away from us, and maybe offer him an opportunity, with some of those youth teams over there that's a little bit more enticing to him. But I thought it was really cool to see him in this camp, and really excited to see what he can do. We also have Dante Sealy, Gaga Slonina, Quinn Sullivan, who's been playing really well this season for the Union, and a few other names in there. But I feel like those names are really the highlights of this camp, and I'm just really excited to see a lot of our top tier talent, come together again. This will be the first U20 roster since before the pandemic started in 2020. So yeah, it's really been a long time coming to kind of get, a youth team for the U.S. back in camp, and, get them all kind of, working with each other again. So, this Revelations Cup is going to be in Mexico. There's going to be, some really good teams there. Obviously, you're going to have, the Mexican U20 team. You're also going to have Colombia's U20 team, and then also Brazil's. So these are some, quality youth opponents that are going to be taking part in this tournament. And, I'm just really excited. I hope these games are streamed. I haven't heard too much about that yet. Just kind of going on a whim, thinking that they would be, now that we live in an age where pretty much everything's streamed. So I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I'm just excited. I think the one caveat that's a little disappointing is we still don't have a U20 coach for this team. So there's reports that Luchi Gonzalez, the former FC Dallas coach and also the FC Dallas Youth Academy director, is really interested in that role. And there's been communication between U.S. Soccer and him, but no, formal agreement has been made or signed. So, we'll have to kind of watch that space and see if he does, in fact, get offered that position and things work out. I personally would love to see Luchi, in that role. I think, it didn't really work out for him as the head coach at FC Dallas. I will say maybe not the most technically sound of a coach. I think his tactics were a little dry. I don't think he changed too much from game to game, especially when things weren't working. It didn't seem like he really had many other options that he would go to. But I do think he's a really good. I think he's just really good at putting youth players in good positions to succeed. And I think he did a really good job there at the FC Dallas Academy. Before he was the head coach at FC Dallas, and I think he can rely upon that experience a lot more, and kind of use that experience to really do things a little bit differently in this role, and achieve different outcomes basically from his time as head coach at FC Dallas. So I'm really excited about him for this position. Also, Tab Ramos today, it was just announced that he parted ways with the Houston Dynamo. So things didn't really work out for him there. Houston, doesn't really spend too much money. So I think just overall, he really did a good job of bringing some different players in at a cheap price, and was able to get, a lot of good minutes out of players we haven't we didn't necessarily think were going to be so good. A player that comes to mind is Fafa Picault. He really had, Fafa Picault had his best year, his career year in MLS this year under Tab Ramos. And I think it was really down to just the way Tab utilized him and was able to get, better minutes out of him than any other coach has really been able to get out of him. So I think seeing him back with the youth team would be really cool. Does it make the most sense for him? Maybe. I don't know what his options are. And obviously, that move where he got, let go just happened today. So not sure he would want to jump right back into a new, coaching role, within a week here. But again, we can dream, right? We can kind of dream and see, what coaches present themselves in the coming days, because someone's got to coach this team. So yeah, I think, with that, if anyone has, any more questions, I'd be happy to take some before we go tonight. And curious to see what you guys think. Maybe we'll leave it here with a few questions. So kind of like we do for our pregame shows, maybe a good question tonight is, how many points are we going to take from these games here in this window? There we go. Get that banner up. Let's see. We got a comment here. So Jose here says, well, actually, sorry. Kyle says here, I hear Ezra Hendrickson has a job with U20s or maybe in MLS with Chicago. What's your take on who should be? Oh, okay. So there we go. I kind of gave my take already. I don't think we need a big name, to be honest. I think we need someone who's good at developing players, to be completely honest. And it doesn't have to be necessarily, in games, right? It can be more, in the camps where we call players up. That coach, I think, needs to be good at identifying talent, getting the right players into those camps to give them opportunities to show them off to maybe other clubs. Maybe that's how I want to, use our youth teams in the future. Because, coaches are only going to have a finite amount of time with these players. Players are really going to develop at their club teams. So I think a coach needs to understand that maybe, he'll be able to get players to do certain things and kind of think about the game differently to help them progress. But he's not going to be, the person that is really going to, grow them as a player. I think that role as a, national team youth coach is more about getting players opportunities to kind of show other teams and, prove to themselves that they deserve to kind of be in that discussion for going forward. And again, providing our U.S. youth teams with just more exposure in general, that's doing well at tournaments. That's, just again, kind of assembling talent that's worthy of going to the next level. And that's not taking the best players from the best clubs or, the best clubs and their players. That's taking players from, all sorts of different, situations throughout the U.S. now that the system's opening up more. So that's kind of my take on the U20 coach. Jose here says, so much legit. At least we get to see Becky G. I guess that is an upside of having Sebastian in this camp and on the USMNT. So we've got some points rankings here, or some, answers here. So Sergio says 4. So I'm guessing you're thinking, a draw against Mexico and a win against Jamaica. I think that's kind of fair. This Mexico game is at home. So I really think this is our opportunity to get 3 points against Mexico. But I recognize that, it's tough. And again, 3 points is not guaranteed against Jamaica as well. So I think 4 points is, in my opinion, the floor for this window. If we get anything less than 4, I'm going to be a little disappointed personally. Jojo says 6. I like the optimism, Jojo. I like it. Jose here says 1. So yeah, that would be a bad window. I really hope we get more than 1 point. That would mean, we draw one team and lose another. So that wouldn't be so great. Jojo here says, plus Mexico loses twice. That would be a nice window. That'd put us, in that first position there in the CONCACAF World Cup qualifying standings. So definitely welcome that. Jose also says, if Leggett and Arreola start versus Mexico, we lose. I mean, it definitely would put us at a little bit of a deficit, personally, based on the other players we have in this roster. Again, I can't stress enough. I think we need to put the players with the most talent on the field in a game like this and kind of see, how they perform and kind of rise to the occasion. I think we're going to have to do that in the World Cup, right? And I understand that our goal is getting to the World Cup. So, maybe it there's certain situations where more veteran leadership makes sense, but based on some of these players, like, Sebastian Leggett, they're not in the best form. So I think we go with kind of the more inexperienced players who have that talent to kind of, be star players in the future. That's just my take though. Jose also says, and I think Jamaica may give us more problems than we think. Better roster this time. Yes, that's very true. They do have a better roster this time. Because last time we played them, they were pretty thin, and a lot of their star players that they've gotten as dual nats weren't there. I think Leon Bailey was also injured for that game earlier this qualifying cycle. So definitely can't underestimate them. They're a good team when fully strengthed. 4 points, Kyle says, maybe just 1 with 3G on the hot seat again. Yeah, that would be Greg would definitely be on the hot seat. If we only got 1 point. Not to say he's not off the hot seat right now. Jose says, if your strongest lineup plays both games, 6, hopefully 4 minimum. Yeah, I agree with that, Jose. I think that is very fair as well. Sergio here says, is Jamaica bringing a better roster than they have in the past 2 windows? To my understanding, yes. I haven't seen who they announced, to be on this team yet, but based on, players and who's healthy right now, I think they should have a stronger roster this time around. And yeah, that's good for them. They haven't started off this cycle very, very hot. They're, I think, in second to last place at the bottom of the standings right now. So they're definitely going to be fighting for as many points as they can get. So yeah, they're going to be a tough opponent this window. Yeah, and then one more here. Jose says, it's crazy because if Leggett played at Cam, I think we would do better. Yeah, I don't know. We'll kind of see what happens. I think Leggett is better centrally personally, just because I think he's good at linking play. And I don't think he's got, what it takes to really be a wide player, or even a player that kind of, pushes back, more into like a more defensive role in midfield. I really think he plays that 10 position for Greg Berhalter, pretty well. I think out of all the other positions he could play in this team, I think that's his role, with this team. So yeah, I guess I agree with you, Jose. So yeah. So I think with that, thanks for joining everyone tonight, guys. We're really excited about this roster that was announced, and there is some players that we wish could be on it, but at the end of the day, it's all about performing on the field, right? And we've got 2 great opportunities to do that here. Again, this is kind of the halfway point of this World Cup qualifying cycle, so we know a lot about our team so far, but there's still a lot of games left to play and a lot more opportunities for players to stand out. So we're really looking forward to it. Again, we're going to be doing some live streams before both these games. And, we also have the U20 games coming up that I, briefly mentioned tonight. So we're looking to do a U20 video maybe sometime next week, kind of outlining, this roster that, Malik Sunogo tonight just leaked. And so be on the lookout for that. So with that, guys, thank you again for joining our live stream tonight. Thank you for commenting. And we look forward to seeing you soon. So thanks again, guys. Have a good night.